One of the things we have to consider about going multiplanetary is vision. A lot of people only look at vision as space blindness, something that can happen where the eyes have too much pressure in them and they move. But what people don't realize, most of our visual acuity, our visual performance, functional vision is done as we oppose gravity. So just the fine art of having peripheral vision, which is just looking off to the side, right? We have to oppose gravity to have that force for peripheral. For peripheral and moving like that, right? When we do that, that's really regulated through our pelvis, right? We don't stamp our feet into the ground and then look over, right? That's a different type of, but the actual movement or the force of the eyes, if you ever look at astronauts, right, for them to look off to the side, they kind of float, right? And that their whole bodies have to go over to engage to show you something before they float back and they can look at you. These are things that we have to look at because all of our functional vision is based off of developmental milestones. There's no developmental milestones in outer space because there's no rotational movements, right? The ability to just rotate, feed myself, all those kind of things, for me to stand up, sit down. We do all these and we organize those movements based off of opposing gravity using rotational movements. When those movements are taken away, the only way that we can actually perform those movements in outer space is, let's say, if our foot is tethered down or we hook on and so forth. But then with that hook, right, instead of me using, let's say, again, the interaction of my body, the force of gravity, going opposing it and having peripheral. So what happens now is I will actually hook my right foot and pull my eye and pull my over. I'm still not visually crossing midline, right? Or having a peripheral vision, but I'm now pulling my torso in and moving that and bringing, but my eyes still are staying the same. It's not a midline crossing like I do when I'm here, those kind of things. You really don't see those kind of visual movements in outer space. So again, you lose all your developmental milestones in outer space, but you also lose that depth perception, that peripheral arcs and so forth, that absolute horizon that happen in our eye, performing a circle, right? I can keep my head straight and move my eyes around, right? But we're used to doing that. Our eyes feel a force. We assimilate most of that and we take it for granted, but that's what's really happening, that we're doing those things. So even just visual movements have to be synchronized with developmental movements. Those are some of the things we really have to incorporate into the lives of humans if we're going to go multiplanetary. Starting to recognize movements that actually happen here, but this is a way we organize our brains. This is a way we move around. This is what we do to get things done, right? We get things done in outer space, but they're not based off the movements we make here. Our brains are organized off of functional movements, and that's what creates movements in the muscles, creates movements in the skeletal system, etc., and through the organs, is based off of functional movements. And that's what we have to consider. If we don't do that, right, we're not gonna be able to survive in outer space. The lack of functional movements that's not recognized in space-based movements is what deteriorates the human body very, very rapidly. Because guess what? If we don't have functional movements here on Earth too, it happens here as well, at almost at the same rate, right? We need functional movements to move. Think about it the next time you get out of bed, everything that I just talked about, and now try to do the same thing without all the things that I say that are missing. You can't get out of bed. And if we can't get out of bed, we can't function. And that's what a functional movement is. Thanks.